Well, it's still telling me to please wait.
Huh.
Oh, there we go. It's telling me I'm live. Hey, Lane, are you there?
Live on the internet over the World Wide Web.
Yeah, excellent. Well,
Almost Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Well, yeah, almost Merry Christmas, right? I think it's really really lovely that we're going to do a special episode of Together in Faith on winter solstice, which
Yeah.
is of course the longest night of the year, and that is tonight. And so
So
it's
yay.
what's that?
So yay.
Yeah,
Happy
right.
longest night of the year.
Well, it's good to be with you all. I see that there's a couple people online. I know that you probably weren't expecting this, but here we are. We're going to do a special episode of Together in Faith, and so feel free to
Surprise!
comment and do all that you would like in the comment screen. So, oh, Colleen has already given us a like. It looks like so.
Wow.
Lovely to see you all here. Hi, Colleen. Excellent. So, this special Christmas episode of Together in Faith, I've been working on for a couple weeks because there's just a really lovely conversation that I want to share with you all about how the Spirit's been at work uh, long before any of us knew it. And Pastor Lane, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but you've been here now at Eastside for 3 years, and I'm certain that you have some examples of how the Spirit has surprised you in these 3 years. And I don't know if there's one that comes to mind that you would quickly share. Maybe folks have already heard it, but maybe not, because I may not have heard any example that you might have of the Spirit's work, or this a surprising way that the Spirit kind of surprised you here. I don't know. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but
Yeah, well, I don't have a like giant example that just kind of jumps out when you ask that question for the first time, but what I'm getting is little visions of all of these unique individual conversations and personal experiences that I've had with people over that time where the spirit just continually is surprising and it's in the ordinary and we've had some
yeah,
wonderful things happen at Eastside over these last number of years and some great facility improvements and
yeah,
all of those kinds of things. Um, but the real power is in those one-on-one conversations or in those family dynamics over a funeral or around a
yeah,
wedding. Maybe to use one surprise piece is what we're doing right now. How when we were all kind of gloomy about what in the world are we going to do when we can't have people come to the church for worship, which seemed
mhm,
unprecedented. All of a sudden we have this grand venue where now we're able to visit with people and have some form of church and spiritual conversation with people all across the country at the same time. And so that's been just one of those little things that has really kind of put me back as to, oh my gosh, look how God took this really tragic situation and then turned it into something wonderful. Yes, sorry, my puppy was walking in on me here. So there's another,
I
yeah, this is Shadow.
love it. Well, yeah, I think that's a great example. You there it is. You just lifted up a great example.
Yeah.
And I just want to quickly say that Reen has said good evening, and Judy says you guys like to confuse us. You're right, Judy. We do. Well,
Look at this
here
as a little lanyap, a little something extra to brighten the darkest day of the year.
there it is. Yeah. So this connection, this Together in Faith, is this East Side Connections, which Lane, you did something like this prior to my arrival at East Side, when you kind of spent little kind of vignettes, little kind of 10 or 15 minute kind of get to know your neighbor kind of piece.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do tonight is air a conversation that I had with John Roth. And many Eastsiders don't know who John Roth is yet, but I'm going to tell you just briefly, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit play on the conversation that he and I had 2 weeks ago. And I'll be watching, and feel free to put stuff in the chat. So John Roth is the man who taught me how to play the guitar. And very briefly, he's a college professor, a classical guitarist, and he has a history at Eastside. And I didn't know that. He didn't know that. But when I got the call to Eastside and I put it publicly on Facebook, he reached out to me and said, "Oh, Joel, I know Eastside Lutheran Church." And so that started this conversation, which has is one of these examples of how the Spirit is at work and we didn't even know it. And I want to share it with you here at this longest night of the year, this Christmas season, because John is a wonderful guitarist who has some Christmas music that we want to share with you. And so there's the introduction. Friends, I hope you pay attention here, and I just know I'm so pleased that I get to share this bit of the Spirit's work in my life through John Roth, and how Eastside formed John Roth, and that also formed me long before I knew that I would ever be your pastor. And
Once an East Sider, always an East Sider.
yeah, well, thanks for tuning in. And here it is, a conversation with classical guitarist John Roth. And we're live, kind of. Hi, John Roth.
Hello, Joel Paikin.
Well, really good to see you and be with you virtually. So, just really quickly, you're outside of Houston, right?
40 miles north of Houston, yes.
Okay.
Montgomery, Texas.
Montgomery. Yeah.
And most people have heard of Lake Conroe.
Yes. Spent some time in that part of Texas, lived in Houston for a year, and so I know that area well. But yeah, good. Okay, so the reason we're talking, just for the people who are going to eventually see this, the reason we're talking is that you are the person who taught me how to play the guitar. And
I was the only one, but
yeah,
fine.
You were the first. How's that? And so I picked up the guitar in college, and I took a guitar class from you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember the private lessons, but I'll have to check back in my calendars to find the class list.
Yeah. So you were the first person to teach me guitar, and that was part of my life. It still is part of my life. But it was a very big part of my life from that point on. And then when Amy and I went to seminary, moved out of the Twin Cities in 2016, sold our house, went to seminary, completed that process, got assigned to the South Dakota Synod, received our first calls, and I received a call to Eastside Lutheran Church in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And then you sent me a message saying, "Hey, I know Eastside Lutheran Church." And that's how this conversation started. And so would you just share a little bit about your story about how you know Eastside Lutheran Church?
Well, sure. I was actually a student at Luther Seminary in the fall of 1972. And at the same time, I absolutely flat broke. And one morning, on a rainy morning, up by the center at Luther, I turned the ignition key and the car would not start. And in that moment, I said to myself, I'm going to leave the seminary temporarily and I'm going to work and earn money and buy a decent car. So I left the seminary and I began to teach guitar full-time at Schmidt Music Company, one of the branch stores in Edina near Southdale. And I got to where I was teaching way too many students every week. And so I found out that that was not going to be what I was going to do for very long. And every now and then an angel shows up in my life. And I don't know it at the time. And
Right.
in retrospect that I realized that they were angels. And this gentleman talked with me for a few minutes, and I have a very good feeling about you. I said, oh, that's good. Share that, because right now I'm not feeling too good about myself.
Right. Yeah.
Well, several months went by, and then he called me one day and he said, I have a friend named Pastor Keith Knopf at Eastside Lutheran in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and he is forming a foundation to send teams of young Christian musicians around the world on a regular basis. And he said, I will drive you to Sioux Falls to meet with Pastor Knopf.
Right, yeah.
I said, okay, I packed a guitar, and I got into this gentleman's car, and whoa, I hit my kid. And we drove to Sioux Falls, and I had never been there before. And met with Pastor Keith Knopf, and he laid out the basic idea that he was going to form the Outreach for Christ Foundation International, and that in the U.S., I was to form an acoustic group of people like myself who were recently graduated from college. And then we would do some fundraising. We would tour in the upper Midwest. And then we would go to Finland, Norway, Sweden, and Germany. But put the word out. I said, yes, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And he put the word out. By the time I got onto a Greyhound bus to Sioux Falls in September of that year, he had offers from Finland, Norway, Sweden, Germany, and he said, I found a singer for you. She's a graduate of Concordia Moorhead, and I found a singer for you who is a recent graduate of Augustana in Sioux Falls.
Sure.
And he said, we're going to be looking for a fourth member. And we got, three of us got to Sioux Falls, got there. The two gentlemen, myself and the other singer, lived in the basement of Pastor Knopf's parents' home.
Huh.
And shared a basement room. And his father, Leonard Knopf, was a retired pastor. Okay. And we did a lot of radio and TV in Sioux Falls, and were interviewed on, and we played for several meetings of local businessmen who liked contributing to projects like this.
Sure, yeah. And so you end up actually doing a world tour, right, in the 70s, based from Eastside Lutheran Church.
Yes.
And just for the sake of people kind of getting the from memory, what were some of the cities that you hit on this world tour doing music based out of Eastside Lutheran Church? Where did you go?
Do you want me to mention just the international places?
Well, no, you could kind of, wherever you think was most memorable or interesting, or yeah.
Remember Rugby, North Dakota, where supposedly the exact geographical center of the East or the Western Hemisphere or something was located. But then they sort of, with a little chuckle, they said, but we had to move the monument. So it may not have been as accurate, the second location. I don't know. But a lot of touring in North and South Dakota and Minnesota, basically. But when we left, we flew Western Airlines from Sioux Falls to L.A. We went from L.A. to Honolulu. where we spent an hour in the airport, and then we came to Seoul airport, went to Osaka airport.
Wow.
First thing I remember is that the missionaries from the Finnish Missionary Society that were hosting us there met us at the airport. We got into a car, and I think I had mentioned before to you that when they said you're going to Taiwan, I refused absolutely adamantly and said absolutely no interest in Taiwan. And the idea of going all the way around the world did not appeal to me. I thought of Scandinavia as sort of, well, it's I'm part Norwegian and part German, so
Yeah.
and the food is good, and you got the lefse and the krupkaka and the good, the holy foods that come from Norway and Sweden. But I had absolutely no interest in Asia whatsoever. The thought actually petrified me, and so I was in the basement in Pastor Knopf's office at Eastside Lutheran, and I said, I'm not going to Taiwan. The rest of you guys, bon voyage, have a good time, and I'll catch up with you in Oslo, Norway. And so as we got into this missionary's car, and I looked around me, I had not had any exposure to Taiwan in any course in high school whatsoever or college. And so I had no idea. I knew that it was called Formosa at one point, and now it's called Taiwan.
Sure. Yeah.
But as we drove from the airport, I looked around me, and everywhere I saw skyscrapers. This is Taipei now.
Yeah.
I skyscrapers with giant neon characters.
Mm-hmm.
Is that this was not the Taiwan that I had imagined.
Right.
And if you were going to do this, you would sit down and you would go to YouTube and you would say, show me a typical day in Taiwan. Or back then, nobody even showed me a picture of Taiwan. They just said you're going to get on a plane,
Right.
play and pray and witness, and we did.
So, your horizons were expanded by this international travel.
Oh, absolutely! My goodness, yes.
Yeah, and that's just what a gift that this congregation gave to you,
Oh.
and then you come back from that, and you we could talk, I'm guessing, for a really long time. But it was really 20 years later that then I meet you. You teach me guitar. You've been influenced by all of this experience, this international travel and everything. And I have to I know from my experience that that influence on me shaped me in really meaningful ways that then had me going out and doing similar things, not because I knew this story about you, but because that's how the Spirit works.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And so the thing that I really want to share with the folks of Eastside is how much the Spirit has been working on you and me to then come to this place where we could actually acknowledge the Spirit's work in our lives through this place. And I don't want to end it there because, Eastside folks, my former guitar professor, John Roth, has just released a Christmas CD. And you have a number of different holiday CDs that you've recorded over the years. And you've had this long career not only as a professor at universities, but as a music director in Lutheran congregations and as a recording artist of classical guitar. And people here at Eastside now know you also as this person who was formed by this community in the 70s. And so I want them to hear what you're doing now. So I want to share with you all a video from John Roth's brand new Christmas album, which was released yesterday, December 3rd. Well, let me make this statement. Here's what I love about this recording of you that I didn't hear in previous recordings, because I have a number of your albums, and but here's what I really loved about this album. I mean, your playing is just wonderful, and every once in a while, I hear you breathing. No, I love it. I love it. Because guitar and emotive music, it it requires the whole body. I mean, when folks, when you see John play, he he taught me all these things. I'm not very good at being so steady as he is, where there's an intensity with just this movement, and yet the rest of your body looks relaxed. But you're breathing so deeply and putting that emotion into this, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So that's one of the things I love about this recording is that maybe because it's just a different era and we have these kind of more now digital devices from your older albums. I don't remember hearing that on your older albums, but I love hearing you take a good deep breath as you move into the next part of a song.
That's really an interesting, wonderful, and very insightful comment because I smiling because when I first went into a professional studio to do the Small Wonders album,
Yeah.
in 1982, and it was Sound 80 in Minneapolis, which is where Lips recorded Funky Town, for instance. His demos, and so there was a lot going on in '82 in that studio. But we actually worked very hard to try and filter out the sound of my breathing. And engineers who I worked with several times during the years said that you have kind of a nose whistle, and we have to deal with that. And the point about it is this, that at some point, maybe some angel came into my life that I'm not recalling, but at some point I realized that the only way that I was going to be able to perform up to my standards with people listening was to incorporate very deliberate breathing into the process. So, one of the most quiet and sensitive and difficult things that I ever did was I did an entire verse of What Child Is This, all in natural harmonics. I worked so hard at it, and I went in and I recorded it in the studio, but I realized that the only way I was going to be able to get that recorded at all was to very conscious about when I was breathing and to make it very, very regular in a yoga-like sense.
Right.
The only way that I'd be able to do it in performance. So I practiced breathing, variations on green sleeves down on tape and to my satisfaction. And then when I would perform that particular piece, which I did for many years, it was 5 movements, and it ended up with something very vigorous and loud and a great big chord at the end. And whenever I got into the last movement, I am automatically kicked in at the right, precise moment, and I could feel it, and it felt like it was like the engine down in the basement of the Titanic. It felt like the engine, the boiler was on autopilot, yeah. And it was a beautiful feeling because it was so beautiful. So I did the same. I should mention that I did the same thing in 2005 when I played my solo arrangement of Paul Mansa's "E'en So Lord Jesus Quickly Come" at a concert honoring Paul and Ruth Mance, and they were in the middle of the audience. And then after I started working on it, I began to get a little worried about my ability to do it. And we didn't talk about it for a couple of weeks. And I thought, well, maybe I'm off the hook. And then I think he said to me, so have you got that solo all set for the concert? And I said, oh, yeah, sure. Ran back to my studio, slammed the door, and started working on the breathing.
Yeah.
I remember I said to my some of my colleagues at that time, many of whom performed in the same concert, that the only way that I can perform this piece with him in the audience, and I said, this is going to be a prayer. And I worked out the whole scheme where I would be in the green room with a metronome. I would work on the breathing. I would be praying. And I would try to minimize the distance between the isolation of the green room and the sudden realization that this was it. And whatever came out of that guitar, some people were going to remember for a long time. And to it, the breathing, the prayer, and I don't know, you've probably felt this way sometimes too, that when you get done with something like that, a great weight has been lifted off of your shoulders and you can resume life.
Yeah, well, there's just so much about that. What you just shared has been so much of my experience also in lots of different settings. And what's I suppose surprising to me is how those different settings they can happen in so many different ways. They can be a big kind of culminating concert experience, like what you just shared about making a guitar version of this beautiful song, "In So Lord Jesus." But it can also just happen like in somebody's living room, or hanging out around a campfire, and so I try to, as I've gotten older, I think I've tried to kind of keep my curiosity primed and ready for that. So and I think you have too. Yeah. You have this new CD, but I want to let people know how they can pick up a copy. And so I picked up a digital copy, and I've been listening to it now for the last day, and it really is lovely, people. But there's only a limited number of physical CDs that you have, and at this point, are they all sold out?
No, but we got a really good start.
Okay, all right. So my hope is that by the time that you all see this, if you want a physical CD of John Roth's new holiday album, which is, again, I don't think I've mentioned it yet. It's called From Stable to String. I have it right? Okay. So you would go to johnroth.bandcamp.com. And I will put that on the screen so that anybody who wants to just even get a sampling of listening on it online, but then if you want to pick up a CD or buy the album digitally and put it on your computer or your phone or whatever, it's just beautiful, and it has a lot of breath in it, and that breath comes through here. When I hear this, I'm hearing this, right? Yeah. Oh, well. Thank you. This was great.
Fun. I've never done this before. First time for me.
All right. Well. Hey, friends. I hope you enjoyed listening in on that conversation as much as I enjoyed having it with John Roth, my guitar teacher, who was formed by Eastside Lutheran Church in the 70s. I don't actually believe in coincidences. I think that the Spirit is always at work. So he was here in 1974, and Eastside sent him on this world tour. And it just so happened it was the year that I was born. And so then 20 years later, he would teach me the guitar. And then 20 years after he taught me the guitar, and 40 years after he was here, then I would go to seminary and then show up here with you all. And so I would love to continue this conversation in ways with you all, whether it's online or in person, um, about how you've seen the Spirit at work in your lives in surprising ways this year. And I hope we can do that soon. I'll close off this very special edition of our Together in Faith, this Christmas episode, the way that we always do with Luther's evening prayer. Seems fitting on this winter solstice, the longest night of the year. And look forward to seeing you online or in person at our upcoming services. Of course, tomorrow night we have our Advent Week 4 worship service, hold an evening prayer at 7 o'clock. Then Christmas Eve worships on Friday, and those are at 4, 5:30, 7, and 11. All of them are candlelit services. The 11 o'clock service has communion. And then Christmas Day, we'll be worshiping at 5:30 in the evening on Saturday, just like we always do. And of course, the worship services on the 26th at 8 and 10. Again, thanks for joining us for this special edition. And let's close with Luther's evening prayer. I give thanks to you, my heavenly Father, through Jesus Christ, your dear Son, that you have graciously protected me today, and I ask you to forgive me all my sins, where I have done wrong, and graciously to protect me tonight. For into your hands I commend myself, my body, my soul, and all that is mine. Let your holy angel be with me, so that the wicked foe may have no power over me. Amen. Happy Advent to you all, and Merry Christmas.